Hey, what's up? Thanks for hopping in the car with Christian Addiction Recovery. This is a channel where like-minded individuals that face similar struggles can come so that we can discuss and learn new ways to live the best life possible and become the best versions of ourselves. All right? Hey, hit that button right there. Let's see. I think it's right there. Like, dislike. As a matter of fact, go ahead and hit the dislike button right now. And if I end up making you like it, then you can hit the like button. All right, but give me that dislike button. All right, I need some engagement from you guys. All right, so I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right, so I wanted to talk today about knowing your enemy, right? I don't know if any of y'all have ever read the book Art of War by Sun Tzu. I believe that's how you say it. But it's a very interesting book that talks about basically the book story short version is that the best way to defeat your enemy is to know your enemy, right? And so obviously we're not going to study Satan by any means. However, I think it is very important to know the way he attacks us and tries to get us addicted or dealing with addiction or dealing with depression in our lives, right? Now, there's a lot of people in the world and in the church that don't believe Satan exists. And hopefully I would be able to shine some light on the subject for those people so they can understand that regardless of how the world believes it, it's true, right? I don't think it's really hard when you look at the genocide and the slavery and the war and the murder and all of the things that happen to people to recognize that that's not God's plan, right, for his people. And we are his people. We were created in his image. So the reason why he hates us so much is because we were created above him. As a matter of fact, in the Bible, it says that we will actually even judge the angels one day. Okay. And there's a preacher that I listen to. His name's Robin Bullock. He's awesome. I'll put a link down below if you want to check out some of his stuff. He's got some really good prophetic words that are very relevant for the time. But I was listening to him the other day, and when he was explaining it, he was explaining how we all kind of think that, you know, God spit in the dirt and kind of molded a person together and kind of made humanity, right? But I really like the way that he explained it, and I'm going to try to do my best to explain it to you. So basically it says that on day 3 of creation, when God was putting the plants and the trees and everything like that on the earth, well, I guess apparently it says that God kind of came and watered the earth like it was his spirit. And I think it said something like a sparkling river. If you want to look it up, maybe you find it that way. But like it was almost like a river that sparkled, that came and it covered the earth and it watered all the plants. Okay, but it says in that area, and when God did that, that he went away from all the angels, he went away from all the other creatures, and so to where he was hidden from them, and he laid down in the earth. Okay, and so this guy explains that when he laid down in the earth, it made a mold of God in the earth. Okay, now this was day 3, so it wasn't until 3 days later, on the 6th day, when God created man, that he pulled that mold out of the ground and knocked the dirt off of it. And that's kind of where a lot of people get confused and think, kind of sounds like maybe he was using his hands to mold Adam, but it was actually, he had already created the mold and he was knocking the extra dirt off to reveal basically a photocopy, you know, like that's how much we're created in the image of God. Like he laid down in the earth and made a mold and copied it, and that's us. Okay. Now we didn't become who we are today until God breathed consciousness into Adam. In the Bible, it doesn't say that he breathed life into Adam. It said that he breathed lives into Adam. And I like to just think about that as that he breathed the entirety of human consciousness and everything that would follow into Adam. It's just a pretty cool way for me to look at it. So the devil hates that consciousness. He hates the fact that we have the ability to have that kind of connection with God. He hates the fact that we can be forgiven of our sins. He hates all of these things about us. Okay. As a matter of fact, this is just an interesting little side story. I believe the metaverse is being created to siphon the human conscious into the metaverse. Okay. And I'll give you a really quick reason. I'll tell another story about this one day because it's a crazy dream. But just really quick, I had a dream one day that my buddy and I, we had started business together in real life. And in this dream, it was a very realistic dream in my brain because we had continued our business and our business is split. And this is where it gets a little unbelievable, but that I was like, ended up running my business over in Houston, and it was just a huge business, and he was running it in Austin, and we both ended up buying football teams and facing each other in the Super Bowl. And it was really cool because in the dream, all kinds of success had come to me and to him and to my family. And just, you know, I remember one weird part about the dream is Lil Wayne was tattooing me with diamonds. I don't know, like somehow he was getting diamonds in the skin, and I don't know why it was Lil Wayne, but that's just a little part of the story, right? So, but at the end the companies that we created started falling apart, and our family started falling apart, and I even believe that like my children were in a bad car wreck or something like that. I can't really remember the actual details. Anyway, I woke up, and I thought I woke up out of the dream, and I looked around and I noticed my whole family, the ones that had moved off into different parts of the country and gotten in a car wreck or whatever was going on. I know that I had experienced a divorce with my wife. That was my wife at the time, and all of these things happened. And I woke up and I realized that we were all in a room together, laying on individual beds, and we all had visors on. So we were basically, I didn't know this was the metaverse at the time. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know what virtual reality headsets were going to look like at the time. But in my dream, they look a whole lot like the Oculus and those things that are coming out now. So once I started finding out about the metaverse and how they're trying to get people to live in it and really just spend a lot of their time in there, I had a big red flag go off and was like, oh, no, we're not doing that. So highly suggest and recommend stay away from the metaverse, okay? I'm not saying you got to stay away from virtual reality games and things like that, but I think there is, meta means death. So the fact that they named it that, you should just be very wary. Okay, I think that's the right word. All right, but so he wants to steal your consciousness, and the Bible says in John 10:10 that he seeks to kill, steal, and destroy, right? And in Peter 5:8, it says that he's like a roaring lion who seeks out who he may devour. The point of that is that he hates you and he wants to take you to hell with him, right? But he can't just take you to hell. He has to get you to worship him in this world. So what does he do? He goes and he knows what God created us for. He created us to be in a relationship with God, like Adam was. A walking, talking relationship like that. So it's the dopamine and the serotonin and those other chemicals that God has placed in our brain to aid in our relationship with him and aid in our contentment and peace and joy and love with him. That's why he's placed those in our brains, so that we would get addicted to and start and search harder for him. Okay? But the enemy knows that. He's been studying you for 6,000 years. And he knows that if he can cut you off from God, then you're going to feel isolated and abandoned in some sense of the word, right? And so what he can then do after he's helped build walls in between you and God is then he can come in with these fake things, right? Then he can come in with alcohol. Then he can come in with pornography or social media or drugs and these things that imitate the Spirit of God and the fruits of the Spirit. And they imitate those good feelings in our brain. They release that dopamine, they release that serotonin in the wrong way. But when you've been separated from God for a while, like for me, I met God when I was 7 and I really loved God. And then something happened to me when I was 10. It was a childhood trauma, and that brought shame upon me. And so I had built these walls of shame around me that made me feel like I can't be with God. And so I separated myself from God over time. And then, you know, about 3 or 4 years later, after the incident happened, is when I discovered alcohol. And because I'd been away from God for so long, I had been feeling isolated and abandoned. But when the alcohol came along, it released that dopamine. It released that serotonin. It gave me a semblance of happiness. And that's exactly what the devil wanted to do, right? And so I'm really convinced that the enemy tries to put every single child through some sort of trauma so that that child will build a wall of shame between themselves and God, right? And I believe that it's some sort of trauma, such as some sexual trauma, a physical trauma, or a mental trauma, like just mental abuse, right? And I believe that most children go through that. And if you don't handle it the right way, then you build those walls, you separate yourself from God, and then the devil comes in with the imitation, the alcohol, the addiction to drug or pornography, or, you know, even just bad habits that lead to unhappy relationships over and over again, and then more shame, and then the cycle continues and repeats, right? We build more walls, we separate ourselves farther from God. But God knows that the power of the blood of Jesus and the Spirit of God that moves on this earth is stronger. It says that that God has overcome the world, and God has overcome the world inside of us. All we have to do is recognize and believe, okay? So that's why I think it's really important that we need to know ourselves. We need to know our enemy and how he operates, but then it's very important to know ourselves, right? That's why I really enjoyed doing research on personality types. I highly recommend, if you've never done it, the Myers Briggs personality type. Now, don't lock yourself into any of these types. They're not indefinite and they're not unchangeable, okay? But it is kind of a good tool so that you can learn where you're at, and you can learn what your strengths are, where you're at, and what your weaknesses are, where you're at. Because we all need to work on our weaknesses. For me, I'm an extroverted person. And so I kind of gain my energy from the outside world and my outside interactions. And so, but if I work on myself, that's when I can become really the best version of myself. But the enemy knows this, and he recognizes your personality types at a young age. He's been doing this 1 billion times, 10 billion times, right? So he recognized, oh, that's that guy. He's that personality type. We're going to get him to go, go, go. And just got me to where I was go, 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 and always had my focus on someone else or a different reaction outside. And I ignored my internal health for a long time, all right? And it wasn't until I actually started going inward that I really became what I am today. And all I am today is saved by the grace of God, but so blessed and favored. And I just pray that I can impart a little bit of the knowledge and wisdom that I have to you. That's what this is all about. And with introverted people, if they can work on their external relationships, they can have a very content life, and they can be complete, right? So what the enemy tries to do with those introverted personality types is he tries to isolate them from the outside world, right? Make them go inside. This is where people that deal with depression often are. Okay, so you can take the Myers Briggs test. It's a whole 4 questions, guys. I mean, really. And after that, you can go. I'll put a link to a really good YouTube channel that talks about the personality types and what you can do to kind of make yourself a better person. And I'll put that down below. They're really cool. I like those guys. So check it out. And I would suggest also, after you really kind of know what your personality type is, do a little research into other people's personality types. I did that while I was searching for my own. I answered some of the questions wrong and had to go back and change them. So I'd gone through like 3 or 4 personality types before I located the one that was like, oh, that's me. And you'll know it when you get those questions the right way, and you go and do a little research on the strengths, weaknesses, and things that they need to work on. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, have they been reading my email? I mean, have they been, you know, researching me? Because that is so much like me, or at least that's how it was with me and some members of my family that I kind of did this test to later. All right. But when I was doing that research, I noticed that there's so many different ways that people process information. There's so many different ways that people handle problems. And I just kind of thought everybody out there handled things the same way I did, or didn't handle things the same way I didn't. And so I just kind of was always, you know, thinking that everybody was thinking like me. And when I did that personality type, went through those different types, I was really able to understand that there's so many different, you know, thought processes for different people. Another personality classification that was pretty cool to me was learning about the sigma males and the alpha males and the beta males and so on and so forth. And the main reason why I started researching into that is because I was trying to do some self-improvement as far as becoming what the kind of man that women look for, and it's just so I could maybe keep their attraction level up in me, and so they wouldn't leave me again. So I just wanted to have my next relationship be successful, and I did learn a lot of really valuable information out of that. I will say be cautious going into that. You got to understand that a lot of the information that's out right now, since it hasn't been going on too long, the research hasn't been going on too long, is there's a lot of information that has a film of distortion on it, because a lot of people are just giving their opinion on human nature and female nature. All right. It is, like I said, it is great information. Just be cautious. Pray to God, you know, what the truth is. And the reason why I actually did the research into that is because I wanted to know what kind of male archetype Jesus was, right? We're supposed to be like Christ. So I wanted to get away from a lot of those behaviors that were keeping me in the beta and the delta and even the alpha. You know, I wanted to be what Jesus was. And the more research I did, the more I found that Jesus was probably the ultimate sigma in all the best ways. All right. Hey guys, the point of that is to not get you to go down some tangent of personality types. And I just find it a very interesting subject. And the more I seem to locate my position in those hierarchies, the more I'm able to successfully work on myself to become that best version of myself. All right. So in this video, we talked about knowing the enemy and knowing the ways that he's going to come at you. But then we really want to focus on knowing ourselves. Okay. Because when we're the best version of ourselves and we have those walls down and we're in a relationship with God, there's no greater joy, no greater contentment on this earth, guys. It's what we're made for. All right. Hey, if you're still listening at the end of the video, I appreciate it. Go ahead and comment down below what year you were born. I don't know. I just need y'all to comment. Hey, and if I switch that dislike to a like, make sure that you hit that like button. And if it says subscribe in this little area over here, click it, please. It's the only way you're going to know when I come out with a new video. It's a new channel, so I'm not going to be in the algorithm. All right. I appreciate you. Love you. Peace.